Hello and welcome to AWS Partner Online Series on Microsoft Workloads, Migrate with Confidence. My name is Anil Sharma. I am a solution architect at AWS and I will be your host and moderator for today's webinar. Now, the topic for today's webinar is how Tix Technologies migrated its ticket selling .NET application on AWS and modernized it. It is my pleasure to introduce the two speakers for today's webinar. I welcome Mr. Amit Bhatia, Head of Engineering Tix Technology. Amit is a seasoned IT professional with more than 15 years of experience in IT industry. He has extensive experience on application development using Microsoft technologies. He has a strong hands-on background in all aspects of software development lifecycle, and he has provided his technical and strategic leadership to many multinational companies. Our other speaker tonight is Atreya Ramdas. Atreya is the Solution Director at Rapyder, an AWS partner. He has over 12 years of experience in fields of DevOps, cloud, automation technologies. He has worked in large enterprises like Nokia, EMC, and Mises. He is a certified AWS solution architect and has experience in architecting highly scalable, available, and fault-tolerant cloud applications. He is a recognized industry leader when it comes to assessment and migration of workloads, DevOps, and security. With that, let's begin the webinar. It's over to you, Atreya.
Thank you, Anil. Thanks everybody for attending this webinar. So today we are going to talk a little bit about how we helped Tix Technologies implement their Microsoft workloads on AWS. Before that, I would like to take a couple of minutes to kind of go through why Windows on AWS and then what Rapyder does before we bring in our esteemed customer on the plane. So what are Microsoft workloads, right? This is a typical question that everybody asks in the market. Any application or any particular software which needs Windows operating system to run on it is classified as Windows Microsoft workload, right? So it can be your Microsoft Dynamics CRM applications, it can be Navision, it can be Microsoft Exchange applications, it can be SharePoint, right? To name a few. It can be any custom build applications that people develop as well. If you see any BFSIs and other app industries, most of it would be running on Windows, and all the legacy applications would be running on Windows servers in the backend, right? So including all this, there are many applications like SAP and other commercial off-the-shelf applications which host themselves on Windows Server. So all of these classify themselves into the Microsoft or Windows workloads. So whenever we are thinking of hosting a Microsoft workload on the cloud, there's some common questions come up, right? Does AWS run Microsoft workloads at all? That is a very common question that we have heard customers asking, because typically the mentality is AWS is open source, mainly for open source and Linux operating systems. That is one of the questions that we ask. The answer is no. So, and another main question that we ask is, because Microsoft has Azure, does Windows workloads run better on Microsoft Azure? So, and why I'll have to choose AWS for running Microsoft workloads, right? To answer some of these questions, we can go into a little bit of understanding to say why we have to choose Microsoft workloads. So Microsoft has been running on AWS even before, it's been close to 11 years now that the Microsoft workloads are being run on AWS across the geographies, right? The other important thing to know is AWS is ever growing in terms of its reach and the number of regions that is there, and the number of availability zones which is there across the world. It is close to 66 availability zones across 21 regions as we talk today, right? And when it comes to security and compliance, many certifications have been achieved on the AWS platform. When it comes to HIPAA, when it comes to PCI DSS, FISMA, all other certifications, there are close to 89 plus compliance certifications that AWS has adhered itself to, right? Apart from this, with respect to Windows itself, there are 165 plus services which are available overall, which will also help customers to leverage along with their workloads, right? Any workload, when it is running, it is important the surrounding workloads also, all other supporting services plays a very important role. Another important thing with respect to the capability of running Windows workloads or heavy workloads on Windows per se is that AWS instances have shown 80,000 IOPS per instance as part of their thing that is required there. So that is something that sets AWS apart, and also that as part of economies of scale, AWS continues to help its customers by passing on the benefit in terms of reducing the prices on a regular basis. There have been 72 price reductions since 2006 across different services. Why should customers choose AWS? So many people, when they are thinking of hosting their applications on cloud, always think about security. It is always thought that cloud is not secure, but that's not the case. So in AWS, there is a fine-grained control that is available for each and every service that is being used. So there are a lot of security components and services around which we can architect the applications on AWS as far as the cloud workloads are concerned. May it be antivirus, may it be malware protection, may it be DDoS protection and other things. There are more than 50 plus compliance certifications with respect to security itself that AWS has accustomed to. And wherever customers need security on its high importance, that can be done as part of their design and the requirement as such, which I'll cover in the upcoming slides. What are the options for database deployment on AWS, right? When it comes to Microsoft workloads, we have seen typically customers using SQL servers. They want to use enterprise editions. They want to leverage always on availability groups and things like that. It becomes very important to choose a platform which has those built in, right? So when it comes to database hosting on AWS, you have both PaaS offerings as well as IaaS offerings. So PaaS gives you the ability to not to concentrate on the infrastructure maintenance and what you can do in terms of ongoing activities and things like that. You can use a PaaS offerings called RDS SQL Server, which also brings in a lot of advantages. But at the same time, there is always a flexibility depending on the use case that your team has to kind of have it installed on an EC2 instance with always on availability groups as well. So that in the always on availability groups is available as a template as well, which can be readily installed and then very quickly you can be up and running in a pretty quick time. Another main advantage is you can bring in your own license if you have already purchased it, if it is already part of the purchase that you have already made as part of the other investments that you have done. You can always bring in your own license to leverage that as part of the AWS deployment as well, so that you can take care of your TCO there, right? And another important thing is if you want to use your secondary SQL Server as part of it, you can use it for reporting, which we have done in one of our cases that we are going to talk about with Fix Technologies, and it will do an automatic failover as well. So that is very important. So what enables you to kind of centrally monitor? So it has a managed Microsoft AD. So if you want to install your own AD as part of it, you have the flexibility to do it. But there is always a managed Microsoft Active Directory configuration which is available, where you can manage all your applications as part of adding to the same domain. and also make sure that you can automate most of the things and and restrict who needs access to what kind of access is required on a particular type of workload which is running there. So another main important thing is all services are integrated with automation. So you can use infrastructure as code, may it be CloudFormation or may it be Terraform that you want to use. So all are exposed as APIs. So you can code each one of them and try to make it as much not person dependent as possible. It can be as much automated as possible. What can be done once you move the applications to cloud? It's very important that we understand how we can operate with minimal manual effort that is required, right? So that's where your the whole suite of operational management services comes into the play. You can do your patch update management, you can create baselines, you can run automated patching and things like that as part of your systems manager. You can also store a lot of secrets that you're managing in your application. You don't want to expose your usernames and passwords into your CI/CD systems. That's where parameter store comes into the play. Inventory management is something that is readily available. You can make use of config to kind of keep a track on what is happening across the different this one which is available there, right? That helps you to kind of keep an eye on how can I automate the operations as much as possible. When it comes to security again, why we came back to security? So this is a typical question every security officer or a CIO asks us whenever they are moving to cloud. What are the different options available? Now I have a firewall in my company. Can I use a firewall in AWS also? Is it required to use a firewall? Do I need to, how can I protect my applications from DDoS attacks and things like that, right? So that's where you have a variety of options depending on what the requirement is. So we have seen customers who are running and storing PII data, like insurance companies, BFSIs who are using and storing customer credit card data and things like that, go with a firewall, actual firewall implementation on AWS as well. So in those cases, we definitely tell them that all traffic can be routed through a firewall. And it is very important to take care of high availability and security by design. So it's up to us, as in the consultants and the partners, to work with the customers to understand the requirement of the customer with respect to security that is required and appropriately give them the design and incorporate all the requirements of them. So another important service that AWS has is called AWS WAF. So it gives you a lot of OWASP rules by default, where you can, it is a managed rule set by itself, which will automatically get updated to avoid frequent interruptions that typical web applications face, like SQL injection and application exploit, HTTP flooding that happens. So there are a lot of ways to avoid all those as well. So it's very important to keep in mind, security is something that we give utmost importance to as Rapider when we are talking to customers and suggesting solutions as well. Okay, given that we have talked a little bit on why AWS, why Microsoft workloads on AWS, why is it important for us to do that, right? Now I'll talk a little bit about what Rapider is, what we do, and how we enable our customers, and what are our portfolio and what do we cater to, right? So Rapider started around 4 years back. We are an advanced consulting partner with AWS. We already have Microsoft Windows workload competency with us. So we have the advantage of and the experience of managing more than 40 to 50 projects on Microsoft workloads specifically over the last 4 years. Our vision of the company is to simplify cloud for all with obsession for customer value. So we always align with the customer to see where he sees value in what we are doing for him. just to give a brief on what Rapyder has done over the last 4 years. So we are an ISO certified company. We have more than 270 plus customers that we have touched and provided service as part of our journey till now with AWS consulting partner. We have migrated and launched more than 3,800. This has gone up upwards of 5,000 as I speak today. Most of our projects, including one-time projects, maybe migration and implementation projects, are 99% on time completed, right? We have more than 90 plus managed services customers that we are catering to. We have a 24/7 team who is managing the round-the-clock support for us. So what we do is we have a technical team who is covering the round-the-clock support, and so that's how we are able to serve customers across the globe as well. Our Net Promoter score that we are tracking internally is hovering around 9.7, which should give you an idea on how good we are with respect when it comes to the customer experience, right? From AWS competencies perspective, we have close to 50 plus engineers in our delivery teams, and we have close to 62 certifications given by them. I'm very proud to say all of our engineers are AWS certified, including our sales folks who are cloud practitioner certified, right? So when it comes to competencies, we have a variety of competencies in which we have done the projects across in the last 4 years or so. One is the DevOps competency, where we understand the customer's requirement, which I'll go a little bit deep into CI/CD and app modernization and things like that. Microsoft workload competency, which we have got through multiple projects that we have done with respect to Microsoft workloads. AWS database migration program. So that is something that we have achieved where we are using database migration service to migrate workloads, both heterogeneous and homogeneous migration. That is MySQL to MySQL, SQL Server to MySQL, etc. Right? And we have also done quite a bit of projects on serverless framework. So we have achieved competency in both Lambda and API Gateway. So we have done multiple projects where we have helped the customers both from consulting perspective and implementation perspective on how best we can make use of serverless infrastructure there. And then we are also part of our well-architected review program, where we do well-architected reviews on behalf of AWS for both AWS customers as well as our existing customers, which will tell them what all is new in AWS which is coming, given the pace at which AWS is innovating. We tell them what can be done better in their workload to make it more robust and cost efficient overall. Okay, coming to portfolio of what we do. So we have seen what we have done till now. I'll just take a minute or two to kind of brief you on what we do overall in terms of portfolio. What we do is for customers who are not on the cloud, who are basically running out of on-prem, it can be other clouds, it can be a co-location or their own data center. So this is where our consulting team comes into the play. They try to check with the customer how they want to move about with their cloud journey, right? Is there any advantages of them moving to cloud? What kind of applications are they running? What is the utilization of their instances today? Is it up for hardware refresh, or what is the reason for them to move? Then we do a complete assessment on what is the requirement for them to move to cloud, what applications are suitable to move to cloud, what are the changes that might be required in the application to make it cloud effective, right? This is part of our consulting assessment team. Once that is done, we detail out a complete plan on how they can move certain identified applications to cloud. What will be the TCO once they move to cloud? How can they continue to monitor and take advantages of cloud to improve their business at the end of the day, which is the main motive, right? So that is for customers who are not on cloud. For customers who are already on cloud, we do, as I told you, we are well-architected review partners. So we do it as part of our reviews. We touch upon all the main 5 pillars of well-architected framework, which not only includes cost and security, but also with respect to the reliability and performance and operations perspective as well. We give them what can be done with respect to their current deployment a little better, or making use of new services which can lower the cost of running their infrastructure at some point, or lower their cost of running their operations at the end of the day. We also do cost optimization with them on a continuous basis and try to kind of give value to their infrastructure, what they are going to run right now. Many customers will have issues with respect to database only. So that's where our database team will do a deep dive into them and try to understand what we can do to help them move forward better. Our security and VAPT teams help them to do vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, etc., which will help them improve their security posture as far as application deployment is concerned as well, not only from security infra perspective. Once the customer is onboarded onto the cloud, it's very important that we continuously work with the customer to make them feel better on how it is being run. How can we increase the power of automation that the cloud provides and help them to run their day-to-day operations as far as the cloud infrastructure is concerned as much as possible, as easy as possible. That's where our next-gen managed services comes into the play, where we as an outsourced team of the customer do a complete management of their infrastructure, including but not limited to DevOps, which is one of the critical components in the new age world when people are moving very fast in terms of what can be done faster, how can I deploy faster. So DevOps helps us to increase the go-to-market strategy of the customer. Security and audit is something that is not a one-time activity. We believe it's a continuous thing that is required. That's where our experts come into the play as part of our next-gen managed services. They do a continuous audit. Weekly reports go out to the customers. Monthly audits happen. And we continuously be in touch with the customer to improve the posture of their workload which is running on the cloud. Given that, I've tried to cover 2 parts here. One is the one-time thing where it's a one-time activity or one-time engagement that we do with the customer. Second one is more of an ongoing and a continuous model that we continue to work with the customer to do that. Okay. So as part of our consulting, what do we do is very important to understand, right? So what we do is we try to understand the application or the business. What does it impact for the business? Why the business should think moving to cloud? What benefits the customer will get out of it is what we take care of first. So if the customer is not finding much of an interest, or if the customer is not having any benefit of moving to cloud, we clearly tell them that that's where our analysis comes into the play with respect to assessment. And we tell them these set of applications, the identified set of applications, it's better to move to cloud. What are the technical changes that might be required? How much will be the migration cost come to you? Is it worth doing the migration? What are the impacts that it might have when you do the migration? What will it do to the operation, security, people, platform? How does it change with respect to the current way of working that is there right now? What we typically do is, currently we are also, as part of our customers, we also do consulting, as in for customers who are running on-prem, they want to do a new age deployment on the cloud. That's where our consulting time tries to understand what is the customer trying to do from business perspective and align themselves to their objectives and try to give them the best solutions and give them the architecture on moving to cloud. What we typically do is, as part of migrations, we always suggest the customer to move as is to begin with, to identify a set of applications to begin with, which I'll try to cover in the next slide, and try to do a migration as part of it, so that it can be shown as a quick win, and then we can move on to the next set of applications there, right? This is the consulting part. Now, when we go to the migration, which is one of the important components when somebody decides to move to cloud of their framework around what we do with respect to how it should be carried out, right? So as part of this, this is the migration framework that so what is migration? What does it mean by strategy? So we try to understand what are the business applications which are running right now, and what are the issues that the current team is facing with respect to the current deployment, wherever they are running, may it be data center or physical data center or a co-location. We try to understand what is their issues, what is the application's readiness to move to cloud. So not all applications can move to cloud immediately without any change. So that's where we help the customer with the strategy. What exactly applications can move to cloud? How can we plan the migration with minimal downtime depending on the type of data, amount of data which is there? What is the type of application? We do all that analysis as part of our strategy there. Once that is done for the entire applications which are running on-prem, we do what is called as a proof of concept. So if the customer is new to the cloud, this is where proof of concept comes into the play. It will give the customer a platform to kind of see how things operate on cloud, and it will make them feel better. So once the POC is done, then we plan the remaining ones as far as the other applications are concerned, and then we start with the data and application migration, and then do the final cutover based on by working closely with the customer's application team, right? And then once the transition is done on the cloud, as part of our managed services, we continue to operate and optimize and see what improvements can be done with respect to the applications which are already migrated on the cloud. So this is the migration framework. Similar to this, DevOps has become a very, very important part when it moves to cloud. I'll tell you the reason, right? So very important, if you're running your applications on-prem on a static server, then it is very easy for a developer to get into the server, do the changes, see what is happening on the logs. How can I do the deployment? You know, one server is there. But when it comes to cloud, given the horizontal scaling capability there, you never know what server, what logs are being emitted, what is the version of the code which is being run. Given the web applications that are scaling out with like 5 to 10 servers, deployment becomes a challenge. That's where DevOps plays a very important role to automate and encompass all these as part of our framework, where we understand the way DevOps is implemented in the organization today. What are the different processes the team is following? That's our discovery phase. Once the discovery is done, we will also try to understand from the customer what are his priorities with respect to application transformation, right? Everybody is moving into microservices and container and serverless kind of applications today. So we try to understand from the application what are their goals aligned to technical goals and what they want to do as part of their application deployment. That's when we consult them with respect to what transformation can be done as far as their DevOps is concerned. Then we try to, once the transformation is done or the decision on the transformation has been taken, then we try to automate their continuous integration and continuous deployment requirements, both from continuous build, static code analysis, and promotion from dev to QA, QA to prod, things like that. And then try to automate some of these DevSecOps practices as part of it, and continue to support the customer as part of our managed services operations. Right? This is a very important slide in the scheme of things that we are thinking. When somebody is trying to move to cloud, automation is like utmost importance, and that's where we stress on automation as much as possible. When it comes to managed services, So I talked about managed services on your side. So what we do is, as part of our managed services, we do complete 360-degree view for the customer, right from security to monitoring. So monitoring, we have an enterprise monitoring tool on our own, which we use. And then we also have account managers, or technical account managers who work with our teams to kind of give an idea to the team what can be done better to the customer, how can we add value, and how can we improve the postures which are running on the customers as far as the workloads are concerned. When it comes to DR, failover, and other things, that is something that my managed services team will take care end to end, right from strategizing the same to implementing it. And typically we see anywhere from 3 to 4 drills, 1 per quarter or 2 per year is what typically customers do as part of it, right? This is apart from normal monitoring that that my team will do with respect to infrastructure, all the incident management and SLA management on what are the service requests which are coming. So it's very important that we take care of DevOps also as part of our managed services, right? Any other operating systems, right from security, firewall management, if there is anything around a physical firewall or virtual firewall that gets installed on the AWS, may it be cloud HFM, that is something that we take care of completely as part of our managed services offerings there. So given that, this is a brief on what Rapyder does. Now I would like to call upon Amit Bhatia. Amit comes from TIX Technologies. He has been our customer for last 3 years now. So Amit, I would like to kind of give you the stage, hand over the stage to you now to help us understand what was your challenge when you guys started using AWS. How did Rapyder help you? How was your experience on AWS? And what are the things that you guys are planning to do? Over to you, Amit.
Thanks, Athreya, for handing over to me. Thanks for introducing me, Athreya and Anil. So guys, I talk about ticket search. So whether you are a small business or a big business, whether you run workshop, music gigs, theaters, production, sports events, trade shows, or conferences, the solution is ticket search. So TIX was planning to build a next generation ticketing platform to serve customers in OZ and Asia Pacific. So we started this journey approximately 3 years back in terms of vision that we can provide a next generation ticketing system built from the ground up. Now, when we're talking about the features of a ticket search, so we talked approximately 700 venues across Australia, New Zealand, Asia, Canada, and the US. The system allows you to build events, activities quickly with the help of friendly wizard setups. You can upsell your foods, drinks, merchandise with the events or independently. Now, a couple of features that ticket search system provides us in terms of hosting online events through a ticket search portal with a full API integration like Zoom. So everybody aware, because of COVID-19, industry is moving towards API integrations where they want more and more events are happening via Zoom rather than venues capacity has been brought it down to 20% capacity or a 50% capacity. So the system provides you integration attend webinars. They can customize their look and feel for the stuff in terms of they can match it with brand. Ticket sales deposit daily into their bank accounts. They can scan the tickets anywhere with the mobile application. The application is packed with the social media tools, let's say Facebook integration like Facebook likes, Facebook shares, or sort of things. Now, venues can also comes into picture when they can sell up their gift vouchers. They can raise their, they can make their fundraising campaigns online to get the donation for the campaigns. They can set up their delivery options from our system in terms of sending up the SMS, e-tickets, and get the tickets on the Apple wallets also. And with the COVID-19 into picture, they can use our system in terms of social distancing seat map. This is very important features our system provides. So what are the key challenges when we started our journey 3 years back? So a couple of key challenges are how we are going to scale our infrastructure. Okay, how we are going to cope up when there's a peak demand. So what do you mean by peak demand is in terms of there are a couple of events which are highly available in the market and people are rushing towards buying up the system. So what will happen if there are a peak load in our system? How we are going to implement security in our system? And if there's a downtime because of the industry we are coming from, we need a system which should be working 24/7 and it should be highly available and should be highly scalable also. Also, we are working with the different time zones and different teams across Asia Pacific or in Australia, in Sydney region. So how the most of the developers which are working around the region can collaborate with each other, deploy the codes. They can check in their codes and the deployments can go to our service without any manual intervention. So it can be automatically deployed on our server. So there comes the challenges that a typical system or a ticketed system, we guys have posted in front of us. And then we decided to go with AWS. Here we have our vendors, or we got our partners, Rapyder, that helped us in terms of building up the AWS infrastructure. We decided to go with the AWS in terms of, because of the workload we have, we decided to go with the Windows platform. Rapyder helped us in terms of right from the beginning, from as a consulting partners in terms of deciding the architecture of the application of the non-production environment. What are the best practices we should be following in terms of cloud space? For example, we build up from a scratch, so they helped us in terms of whatever the cloud features which can help us in terms of ticketing platform. Couple of features we talk about: sending up the emails, sending up the SMS, how to use pinpoint services. Couple of features more in terms of how we can give a unique URLs to each client. So how we can leverage in terms of API integration with a Route 53 or provide security to the customers also. Our applications are highly available and should be highly available, and they should be scalable in all the layers. So Rapyder helps us in terms of building our infrastructure in terms of highly available infrastructure and highly scalable infrastructure. They helped us in terms of building up the security features. Other feature they helped us in terms of dev automation. So dev automation is very important part of the system. We have a different environments like dev, SIT, and production, and we don't want any manual intervention in terms of when deployments are going on. So Rapyder helped us in terms of building up a system with the help of Jenkins, with the help of code pipelines or code deployments, where all the pipelines are getting automatically get deployed. And in terms of, they helped us in terms of our servers, especially our production servers, should be auto scalable when there is a peak demand. Our servers are scalable, as well as our database is also on the high availability zone, where if our secondary or a primary node is going down, we are switching back to a secondary node, and still our application workload remain the same. They also helped us in terms of cost optimization. They helped us reviewing our architecture, and they are supporting our system in terms of 24/7 from a best practices standpoint. Now, in terms of, this is not the end of the journey. We are still into a market and looking towards the new features that we can leverage our system and utilize in our system actually. So we are working towards, after the successful implementation of this system in the EU region, we are working towards replicating the same setup in the US system. At the same time, we are also looking into how we can leverage our system into moderation in terms of containers, in terms of Kubernetes, so we can further optimize our cost in the system. So I probably touch base on the architecture of TIX technologies, where you can see our servers are behind the load balancers and they are auto scalable. So if there's a peak demand in terms of our UI application, then our UI application servers got auto scale. If there's a peak demand from our application standpoint of view, then the application also get auto scale. And our SQL server, you can see that there's always a high availability zone. So if we have a primary server who is serving up the load of our primary application, at the same time we are using complex analytics to serve a secondary SQL server, which will serve us in terms of a purpose of SSRS reporting and a tabular reporting also. So I will hand it over to Athra on this particular slide. So Athra can explain a little bit more on this.
Yep. Thanks, Amit. I think it's been a fantastic experience working with you guys, given the new challenges that we keep facing on a day in, day out basis. I still remember one day, suddenly there was an idea that Australian government has to whitelist our IPs, and we kind of came up with a solution of Global Accelerator, which was like released like a month before that. And we tried to implement the entire thing in less than 48 hours. So that's very encouraging to see as far as we are concerned as well. So guys, just to kind of give you a brief, I think Amit touched upon, the idea here is this is just an indicative architecture on how we have implemented highly available and scalable architectures across different components, and not only from database perspective, from UI API as well. As Amit pointed out, they are building the container-based applications as well for exposing some of their APIs going forward, given that what they are doing. And that is something that we are working on with the team to kind of do a complete automation in terms of containerizing them and deploying it with best practices using Kubernetes, that is EKS of AWS. Right? Given that, I will just take one more point before we kind of get into how we did the DevOps automation for TICS there. So if you see the TICS Technologies is using GitHub for their version control. That's where we kind of integrated with Codeplane pipeline and Jenkins. And parameter store is used to store all the secrets in encrypted format. So there is no way anybody can kind of decrypt it as part of it. So everything is managed through IAM roles. And then the complete deployment happens right from the dev branch into the QA and into the production with appropriate controls in place, where Amit and team will need to approve before any build goes into production. Given that, thanks Amit, thanks for your time to kind of engage with us and try to help everybody on what your experience is with respect to working with AWS as well as Rapyder. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks, Athra.
Anil, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Amit and Athra. Thanks a lot for sharing this very insightful session and the sessions that the information that you were sharing. Before we open on to the Q&A, in fact, I had a few questions of myself in terms of SQL Server. I believe you have always on in this setup.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and what version of SQL was it?
It's 2017.
It's 2016. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. And you're also using directory services, right? I saw that on the diagram. But that's pretty much so.
Yes.
What I like about this solution is, one is you've got the whole lot of the Windows offerings, and also you're using the native features like auto scaling on both the UI and the API. All right. So do you have an experience around was it stateful application, stateless, and how did you manage the auto scaling if it was let's say stateful?
So Anil, this is where we kind of work with Amit and team. They had a working application which they wanted to host. The application was ready already. So that's where when we started consulting with them, we tried to kind of give them an idea on what needs to be done to make it stateless and make it cloud ready, right? That's where we try to work with Amit and team. Amit and team should be like like they are like super fast in whatever we tell them. They like take it in a chance, and then they used to implement everything very quickly, right? And also another important thing, Amit, you might want to add, whenever you add new customers, I think you have built automation on to add automatically those records into Route 53 and do that everything on the fly. So that is also built using APIs completely, Anil. That is very important to know as well. Just to kind of bring
That's
it
very
up.
interesting as well. Yes. So thanks a lot, guys, again for this wonderful session. Very insightful. And for our audience, we are now open for Q&A. You can, like you said in the beginning, you can post your questions on the panel on the right, and we will be happy to answer all the questions that you have. Thank you for your patience in listening. We'll now open for Q&A. So we do have a bunch of questions that I'll quickly read out. The first one is actually an interesting one. So we're talking about this question is from Rahul, and he is asking how much time and talented workforce was required for migrating TIX workloads to AWS. So it's question about time and talent both. So it's a trick question, I think, in some aspects. So what is your opinion about it, Atrey and Amit as well?
Great. So Rahul, first of all, very good question to ask, right? So being part of many migrations till now, I think it's more about planning and trying to understand what exactly is the landscape that we are going to do, and understanding the application. I think we spend more time rather than execution, right? Execution is once we have figured out, and we always perform dry runs as part of it and make sure that it is seamless as much as possible. So to answer your question, if it is, I mean, it depends how much time is required depending on the size of the applications and how much time do we need. But I think we have executed migrations as less than 15 days to a month as well. And some projects have taken over 45 to 60 days as well. So it completely depends on the complexity and the planning that we do along with the team there.
Cool. And Amit, how was your experience with the migration, the time it took, and what kind of resources, workforce that you had to put?
Yeah, so I mean, from my perspective, Rapyder has come quite a long way with us, and they are working with us as a partners for last 3 years. And time to time, the requirements has keep coming on. So one of the requirements come from implementing a global accelerator, and they guys have come back to us within like 1 day in terms of a solution, and then we implemented that over the weekend. And we migrated approximately 130 clients we are using in our application, which got the benefit of using a feature called global accelerator. So it's again depend upon requirements. Some of the requirements are complex, so they require a little bit time in terms of understanding, and then do a drafting and then take it to the production. And some requirements are pretty straightforward. And I probably want to thank Athya and team in terms of coming back to us in terms of quick solution and solving us our problems on a day-to-day basis.
Sure, that makes sense. Thanks for that. Okay, so I'm going to read out the next one, and the questions are coming fast and furious right now. There's a question from Shankar who's asking about, what is a good way to migrate a monolith? Do you recommend, Atrey, I think your experience is going to be handy here. Do you recommend, bits by bits, or one microservice at a time, or the whole app in one go? Monolith.
So if it's already a monolith application, we would kind of always suggest to move that to cloud, so that we don't have too many moving parts as part of the migration, Shankar. So it is always better to move the application as it is first onto the cloud. And then when you're already on cloud, there is always room for making some of these adjustments faster and trying to test everything faster as part of your dev and QA environments, and then try to break it out into microservices. That is the normal approach that we follow. And given that everything is moving towards microservices, we have also, I think Amit, I touched upon that also in the previous session. So when we started off, it was a monolith application for TIX as well. So we are slightly moving towards having it containerized and moving towards Kubernetes there as well.
Oh, interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, so I'll move on to the next one. And this one is about automation tools. So what kind of automation tools did you use? Did you have to write something as well? And what technologies did you use to write?
Great. I think one thing that we normally do when it comes to automation is definitely consult with the customer on what they are comfortable with as well. So we always recommend, but go with the customer's choice. So when it came to this particular project, what we did was we used cloud formation all the way, because AWS was the only component that was there. It was not a multi-cloud or anything like that. So we used cloud formation for automating the entire infrastructure end to end. And then came the DevOps piece, where we use Jenkins, code deploy, code pipeline, and a lot of other AWS services to completely automate the deployments as well. And many things like you're joining the domain automatically whenever the things comes up, when it comes to authorization, authentication, everything. I think that's where automation helps. I think we touched upon that in the previous session also. Amit and team have automated creation of domains also. So that's the power of cloud, which we have completely leveraged in this particular thing. So it definitely helps.
Very, very nice to hear that.
Also, I can
Yeah.
add certain things. Like, our environments are a little bit like there are 3 to 4 environments we guys are using, and each environment requires different setup in terms of if you talk about database connection strings or their settings and all. So these guys have come along quite a good in terms of replacing those variables from a parameter stores, writing Python scripts, so we don't need to do any manual intervention. So right now we have 4 environments, and they are running like whenever developers are checking either from India or from Sydney or from any locations, builds are automatic, they are getting automatically deployed. Our business stakeholders are quite happy in terms of they don't need to wait for any developer to check in, like to do a release cycles. And definitely in a production, you have approval process in place. So whenever we merge the pipelines from one location to any other location in terms of dev to SIT or SIT to production, we have approval process in place. We approve in sequential manner. So once deployment are successful, then we keep on releasing our different projects, because we approximately have 8 to 10 projects and pipelines in place.
Very nice. So glad to hear that it's it seems to be a very highly automated environment. The next question, I think, Amit, is for you. Let me just read that out. I think you mentioned. I think this is the context is around you mentioned real time communication between the apps and things. So the question is from Santana. Is there any integration with WebRTC or mobile RTC for your real-time communication between your systems and the mobile apps?
So we have a mobile application for a scanning purpose only. So because in the event or a ticketing industry, so when we selling up the tickets or when we selling up the merchandise or any bar drinks or sort of things, so on the day of the event or a day of the night, people need to scan tickets. So we have a mobile application which is built supporting iOS and as well as Android, built on Xamarin framework. And that application is not a full-fledged application, but is only getting used when to let the people scan in and scan out from the venues. That's it. Okay, so anybody coming with their barcode, they can use our application to scan in the tickets and then let the people inside to the venue.
So this one's interesting. So there's a question about so this questionnaire agrees that AWS works equally well for Microsoft technologies, but how do you optimize for cost? TCO is and ROI is always the elephant in the room, right? So the question is, how do you optimize cost for Microsoft workloads on AWS? So guys, what has your experience been? So Atra, I know you covered cost optimization quite a bit, but specifically on Windows workloads, is there something that you did? And Amit, I think we'll need your input here as well.
Sure. I think, see, whether it is Windows or Linux, it doesn't matter for any business. Cost optimization, whether you're running it on cloud or on premise, that also doesn't matter. So cost is something everybody wants to keep in check, and it has to be definitely a part, something that we'll have to look into. When it comes to Windows workloads on AWS, what we have done is we have our own product called Cloud Zadig, which we use to kind of do a deep dive into understanding what are the unused resources across the account, which we are doing as part of our managed services to TICS as well. And then also we have a monthly audit, bi-weekly audit that we have, which will have continuous look into the kind of utilization that is going. Apart from that, we also have a combination of reserved instances and savings plans that we have put across for ticks to keep the cost in check. Apart from that, I think Amit can add all their, because they have developers working across both Australia and India. They have their instances up and running almost 14 hours a day as far as the dev and QA and non-prod instances are concerned. So that is something that we have automated completely. Yeah, that's how it is right now. Amit, if you want to add anything there.
Yeah, definitely. What Athir touched based on the instances. So we have approximately 4 environments, but production is running 24/7. But rest of the environments are not required for 24/7. So these guys have come up with a solution. Whenever our Sydney teams finish all of the stuff, and then dev team, like India team, also finish, the environments are going into auto shutdown mode automatically. And when we guys are starting, those are coming up automatically. In terms of when you talk about production, yeah, R3 and team helped us in terms of getting into a reserve instance. Let's say about databases. So we have reserved our databases to an instance where we already paid up for 1 year or 2 years where the cost is new. Also, they guys have suggested in terms of Intel versus a new series of servers are coming into market like AMD series. So they guys have done the analysis in terms of if we guys are not using that heavy workload, we can move our workload from Intel to AWS or so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, Anil, just to add one more thing, as I talked about, the idea of we have kind of bugged Amit so much and told him to move to containers as well. The move to containers is another move to optimize cost, and we have done some analysis on moving SQL Server to Aurora as well. So, but that is in the work. That is too much of change right now, but that is also something that we are looking at.
Right. I think so. The answer, really, to address the question is that there are so many levers to optimize, your costs, and cloud will have certain key features like, Amit was mentioning around, shutting down instances, which are simply not possible on premise, right? So there are levers, and we can get you a solution that actually is the most cost optimal for your architecture, right? So, okay, guys, so, we are almost on the hour, and we do have 2 more questions that we'll take. One is around security, so do we get a detailed report around security threats, and what happens in case of a, bot or a crawler, or some kind of malicious traffic that we detect? So what has been your experience with security, Amit, if I may?
So we guys been using a couple of security features one from AWS, which is a web security. And I think we are pretty okay in terms of web security, which covers our DDoS attacks and any other SQL injection. And if I talk about WAF have approximately 110 or 120 rules actually. So to enable even our application, we have to go through each and every rule and adhere to those particular rules so that our application is not compromised in terms of security. I think Athria can add in terms of reporting perspective from a security perspective a little bit more.
Yeah. So in addition to WAF, as Amit pointed out, right, we have deployed anti-malware solutions and antivirus solutions also as a centralized one. So that is something that we get a report on. We have guard duty enabled. We have CloudTrail, Cloud config enabled to keep a track on what changes are happening with respect to the each and every resource on the account as well. And some of these guard duty findings are automated to take actions as part of remediations as well. So any particular IP is trying to do a brute force attack and things like that, it gets automatically blocked for 30 minutes through our automated solution. So that will take care of it. And by design as well, most of the none of the servers are in public. Everything is exposed only through load balancer and things like that. So that's how we take care of security there.
Ah, nice. That's good. Okay, guys. One final question, and I think we're almost on the time. So one final question, and this one's more of a, it's more of an interview question. Have you ever faced a deployment failure? And if yes, how did you overcome the situation? So
Amit, you want to
Today
talk
we
about
have
yesterday
instances.
mornings or?
Yeah. So that's definitely automation doesn't mean that, okay, things will not fail or certain challenges will not come. So we definitely get these challenges on a day-to-day life. And that's what we have Atria and our partners working around 24/7 with us. Whenever we raise the ticket, we got a response time within an hour or sometime within 15 minutes in terms of production incident. I think a couple of those days back, we had a production incident where secure pay went down. This is our major credit card provider in Australia. So we raise the tickets to our team members, and these guys are like within on top of that because it's a production issue. So a simple answer to that, yeah, deployments and environments certain can go down in terms of automations, and that's what the team members are there in terms of supporting those particular things.
Yeah, just to add there, the way we do deployments is not by bringing down the current one and bringing up the new version. There is always a older version which is running until the new version comes healthy or your applications comes online. We'll not remove the older version. That's how we try to kind of like make sure that your application is not down. So we are doing blue, green, and rolling deployments as far as the applications are concerned.
Yeah.
Good. So guys, Atre and Amit, thanks a lot. This has been a amazing session in terms of what you shared, the insights that you provided. So guys, thanks a lot. And for the audience also, you've been a very patient audience with lots of questions. Thanks for listening in, and hopefully you found the session very useful. Yeah. So with that, we'll close the session. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Anil. Thanks, Atria. Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.